Welcome to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, founder of the Reiki Business Collective and creator of the Build Your Reiki Business program, sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business. Greetings, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me. It's Christian of Standing Stones Healing, and I am, as always, honored to welcome you to another episode of the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. In this week's episode, we're talking about time management. Time management for your Reiki business. And this episode is really a complement to the previous episode on goal setting, which was a complement to the previous episode on planning, strategic planning in your Reiki business, because indeed, this is the time of year when many of us are doing planning, strategic planning in our Reiki business, planning out the year ahead, reflecting upon our goals for the year, and even, yes, considering how we want to be spending our time in the year ahead, whether in our Reiki business or our personal lives. And so this episode offers some thoughts on time management and some tips for time management and some ways that I use in my Reiki business of managing my time. Now, I first want to make sure to talk a little bit about what time management really means, or at least what it means to me. Because we talk so much about time management, but I actually believe that time management is not about time. Here's why. We all have the same amount of time. I have 24 hours in a day. You have 24 hours in the day. The next person has 24 hours in a day, and so on and so forth. Everyone has the same amount of time. And so if everyone has the same amount of time, time management is not about time. Rather, I actually believe that time management is about priorities, and that time management isn't so much about managing time as it is aligning how we spend our time with our priorities and being mindful of how we want to be spending our time. Now, of course, how we want to be spending our time is important because time is there and it'll get used in all kinds of ways if we're not mindful. And so time management is really, I believe, all about priorities. Now, in the goal setting episode, I talk about using goal setting as a time management technique, and really goal setting, when we take it to the next level, is a time management technique, because it allows us to define what our priorities are and then to act in accordance with that in how we spend our time, to align our time with our goals, which are our priorities. So the first thing that I want to encourage you to consider in time management is to really reflect upon your priorities, what your priorities are, and asking yourself how your current use of time aligns with those priorities, and if it does. And so because time management is really all about priorities, I think that the first place to start with improving our time management is with our priorities. Now, I will say, full disclosure for me, in my Reiki business, time management is something that I'm looking forward to improving in the year ahead. Now, I will say that I'm typically pretty good with time management, and typically I have good focus and I'm really able to get things done. But I still have lots of improvement to do myself. And so what that means is that it's important for me to sit down and really ask myself what my priorities are. Not just in my Reiki business, but also in my life, and to ask myself, what is it that I really want to place the focus of my life on? Of course, Reiki business for absolute certain, but what are the priorities in my life, and what even might be some competing priorities with my Reiki business? And so it's important for us to, I believe, really start with time management by starting with our priorities and what it is we prioritize and where we want to therefore be spending our time. It can also be really helpful for us when we are considering time management in our Reiki business to ask ourselves how we are spending our time. And again, of course, the focus here is on Reiki business, and so how we are spending our time in our Reiki business. But life outside of Reiki business impacts Reiki business and vice versa. And so you may also want to be considering how you are spending your time outside of your Reiki business. Now, I have a previous podcast episode about finding time for your Reiki business. I'll drop that link down below so you can check that out for more encouragement. But when we look at how we are spending time in our Reiki business, are we spending that time in the best ways that we can for our Reiki business? Maybe, for instance, I might be uploading something to YouTube and a video catches my eye. Ooh, that looks interesting. Let me just check that out real quick. And then it's like, wait a minute, what did I come here to do? Wait a minute, what video was I uploading? Yes, indeed. So we have these distractions, these time distractions that may not seem like a big deal in the moment, but they really can add up. I actually like to think of these things as time vampires. We in the Reiki community talk about energy vampires and trying to steer clear of people who might just kind of suck the life out of you. Well, I believe that we have time vampires too. And these things might not seem like a big deal in the moment, but they distract us. They take our attention and our focus in a different direction. And when we add them up, they do have a big impact. And so what that means is that when I go to upload a video on YouTube and I see a video and I think, ooh, that looks really interesting, I want to check that out. And then I go do that. Maybe it's a 2-minute video, no big deal. In the moment, so what? 2 minutes, what is that? But when you add that up again and again and again, that becomes a lot of time that is being diverted from my priorities. My priority in that moment is to upload that video. And if I am clicking to go look at another video, I'm being distracted. I'm being pulled away. It's a time vampire. You can also, yes, it is also an energy vampire because time and energy are so intertwined. They're really one and the same, right? And so, yes, it's a time and energy vampire when I click on that video and watch that quick 2-minute video because it's taken me away from my priority of uploading my video to my YouTube channel. I don't know about you, but I do this a lot. I'll log into Facebook and I'll be like, okay, I'm just going to get the link for my upcoming event so I can, add it to my website or something like that. And I log in, oh, you've got a message. Oh, you've got this notification. Oh, you've got that. And I think, oh, just let me check this. Oh, let me just respond quickly to this person. And then I log out and I'm like, wait a minute. I never got that link. Darn it. Yes. Log back in and get it. That is a time vampire. And so it might not be a big deal in the moment, but it really does add up. All of those small bits of time do add up. And so what that means is that you may be thinking, oh, I'm just going to check my phone real quick. And oh, I've got a couple of notifications. Let me just respond to those right now very quickly. No big deal. It took me a minute, not a problem. But when you add up that 1 minute again and again and again, even over the course of one day, that might add up to 15 minutes, half an hour, maybe even more of unfocused, distracted time vampire time. So I think it's really helpful for us to consider how we are using our time, even in these small little ways. Now, I'm guilty of this in my Reiki business for sure. And I also will try to maximize my time oftentimes by doing small tasks in between other things. Like, let's say I have one client, I have one session, and I wrap that up. And then I'm like, okay, let me just log into Facebook real quick and check some things and do this quickly before my next session, before my next appointment. And so it's almost like I'm trying to steal back time in those small moments and to get things done. But ultimately, it's a distracted kind of functioning, and the focus isn't truly there. And so for me personally, I know that that is an area of improvement with my time management. There is so much to say about social media use and time management. And one thing that I really want to encourage you to consider is your relationship with social media, and maybe even to reconsider your relationship with social media. I really want to encourage you that when you become a Reiki business owner, or you commit to being a Reiki business owner, your relationship with social media should change. Now, I don't like to use the word should, but I'm going to use it here because so often what I see is that when people decide to start a Reiki business and they become a Reiki business owner, they are still by and large a social media consumer, where they are still becoming a consumer of social media rather than shifting their identity to being a creator of social media. And so social media is very tricky. Social media is designed to keep us there, to make us scroll, to keep our attention. And social media companies put millions and millions of dollars into all of the best techniques and tactics and ways to keep us on their platforms. Now, I also have an episode of the podcast on social media. I'll drop that link down below as well. But I just want to encourage here in this episode, because it really, for many, is a time vampire, to really consider how you are using social media as a Reiki business owner. Are you using it to advance your Reiki business? Are you using social media in an active way, or are you using it in a passive way? Are you using it as a creator, or are you using it as a consumer? Because using social media as a consumer means that you will be much more susceptible to that energy, time, vampire aspect of social media, where you've just been scrolling, and you look up and, oh my gosh, an hour just went by. Where did that time go? So I want to encourage you to not fall into the black hole of social media, especially especially as a Reiki business owner, to really be mindful of how you are using social media. This idea of mindfulness is really what time management is about. It's about priorities, yes, and it's about being mindful of how we are using our time and if we are truly using it in a way that aligns with our priorities. One technique that I have used in my Reiki business for time management is what is called chunking, where you set aside a block of time to do a lot of the same thing. And so that means that I might set aside a chunk of time to record multiple podcast episodes, one after the other after the other. And so now I have just created multiple podcast episodes that are recorded in advance. Yes, I do this. I do this sometimes more than others. Quite frankly, sometimes it's a little difficult for me because of the cats who don't always give me large chunks of time alone. But I for sure will and do this in my Reiki business. And I can also say that it is very helpful because you can just take a block of time where you're not seeing clients. And so rather than trying to fit things in between clients, you can just block off a chunk of time in your calendar for time to do other things like write social media posts or make phone calls or run errands, upload podcasts, or whatever it might be, time that you are not seeing clients. So rather than trying to fit things in between clients, you just have a big block of time that you are not seeing clients and you're using it for all of the other things you've got to get done. There's a great technique as well in which you plan out a week. So you take a full week and you say, what are the major tasks, the things that I need to do each week? And then you schedule those in on particular days at particular times. And then you repeat that week again and again and again. Now, I had this idea where I was like, oh, hey, why don't I just take all of the things that I do and schedule them during the week and then do that every single week? And so I really just break my Reiki business down into a week that I just repeat every week. And so I'm doing all of the same things every week. And I thought that this was a really good idea. And then I found out that it's a thing. No joke. I love the way the universe works. I had this idea where I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this. And then no kidding, the very next day, I got an email talking about this exact technique. And, oh, by the way, here's a video on it. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's a thing. I was super excited to know that this is actually a technique. And so this is something that you may want to consider in your Reiki business as well. It is called the repeatable week. Ultimately, when it comes to time management, what we really want to be striving for is creating systems that allow us to manage our time. And so time management then does not just become about managing our time, but rather about the habits, the systems that we implement and continue to do. This is really at its core, in terms of those priorities, what good goal setting does. Good goal setting allows us to focus on our priorities, but it then allows those priorities to surpass the goal. Now, here's what I mean by that. let's say that in your Reiki business, your goal is to get 10 5-star reviews. So your goal is 10 5-star reviews. And you create this goal, you implement all of the things in order to achieve this goal, improving customer service and asking for reviews, making it easy for people to leave reviews, all of those things. So that it becomes a habit, it becomes something that you do, and you do again and again and again. So that once you hit those 10 5-star reviews, it's not that you just say, okay, I'm done. I don't need to do these things anymore. I no longer am going to ask for reviews. I'm no longer going to worry about good customer service. I'll start treating my clients like crap. Who cares? Because I hit my 10 5-star reviews, right? But the real goal of the goal becomes greater than the goal. And so once you hit that 10 5-star reviews and you think, I've hit my goal, I'm done. No, you've implemented the systems, you've implemented the processes to get you to those 10 5-star reviews, and you can continue with those systems and with that process so that the greater reason behind the goal, the greater power behind the goal is not the 10 reviews, the 10 5-star reviews. It's rather all of the processes and all of the things that you did to get you to those 5-star reviews that you are going to continue to do to get you more 5-star reviews. And so the process to achieve the goal becomes greater than the goal itself. Now that is powerful in time management because now you are managing your time in such a way that continuing to achieve that goal, or rather surpass that goal because it's been achieved, but continuing to do the things that got you that goal in the first place are automatic. And you're just going to continue to do them. So if we can set up our time in a way that prioritizes systems and habits, processes, that is going to propel us far, far beyond the original goal, the original reason for wanting to manage our time in the first place, for wanting to make some changes to our time management in the first place. And so when it comes to considering time management, I really want to encourage you on a higher level to be asking yourself, what are the systems that you want to be setting up to help you continue to navigate your time, to be mindful of it, and to use it in a way that propels your Reiki business forward. Well, however you want to be propelling your Reiki business forward, I am so honored to have you here. Of course, as always, please feel free to snag the free Reiki Biz Kit at standingstoneshealing.com/Reiki Biz Kit. Yes, the link is down below. And of course, as always, please feel free to join us in the Reiki Business Collective. Tell us about how you are managing your Reiki business time at facebook.com/groups/Reiki Biz. Sending so many blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business. Thanks for tuning in to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and send to a friend. Learn more about the Build Your Reiki Business program at standingstoneshealing.com/build. Sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business.